Oh, hey everybody, how you doing? I brought the booze. We got sake and another variant of sake. Yeah! This one being like 5 years old, so I don't recommend anybody drink it, but we have it. Woo! Party! Yeah! This is Tekking, partying, yeah. I don't drink alcohol, but you know who does? Kaido certainly does. And in this chapter, I gotta be honest with you, it's just 85% of Kaido being completely wasted. Like, that's pretty much it. There's a really cool moment at the end, but most of it is just drunk Kaido, which is fantastic because it's Kaido. If anything, it actually makes him stronger. Remember back, it was during one of Kaido's first appearances in One Piece. It wasn't his first appearance when he jumped off the Sky Island in front of Kid Hawkins and Apu, but it was like the next scene after that, like right after the Zou arc, when he was at Onigashima before we knew it was Onigashima, and he was getting drunk, and his minions were talking about the different drunk phases that Kaido goes through. Like, oh no, now he's a sad drunk, now he's a crying drunk, now he's an angry drunk, now he's a mysterious drunk, now he's an inquisitive drunk, now he's an intelligent drunk, now he's a complicated drunk. You know, it's just like all these different phases that Kaido goes through, and those were never really mentioned ever again since that moment. Like, all throughout Wano, it's never really been brought up. I mean, Kaido has drank quite a bit, but those, like, specific phases he goes through have never really been referenced, okay? And it feels like Oda just remembered that gimmick, and he was like, oh man, that's right, when Kaido was first introduced, I wanted to do that whole thing. Oh, well, alright, so just in the middle of his fight with Luffy, for no reason, Kaido just gets wicked toasted. Alright, let's go. If it was any other story, I would say it wouldn't make any sense. Oh, who am I kidding? This is anime. A villain stopping in the middle of the fight to get drunk or eat or talk. That's perfectly par for the course at this point. Anyway, this will be One Piece chapter 1037 review titled Shuron Hake! As opposed to Raime Hake, or the 8 trigrams Thunder Bagua technique. This is Shuron Hake, which is like the Drunken Bagua technique. Alright, so it's the exact same technique, except Kaido is wicked toasted when he swings the Kanabo. That's pretty much it. And honestly, now that I think about it, does alcohol actually make Kaido's haki stronger? It certainly makes his hake stronger, but does it make his haki stronger? Yeah, that's the question you need to be asking yourself. We need to do a research project on this. We got to figure this out. All right, so the cover page, though, continues the, actually, what is it called? The Germa 66, like, emotionless voyage, or cold-hearted voyage, okay? So this is chapter 2, and it's actually kind of following what I thought was going to happen, where we just see the bombed-out ruin of the Germa kingdom as it's sailing away from Totland. We see Reiju and Ichichi just hanging out on the outer walls, still wearing their raid suits, and they look very just dejected, and they're just kind of like nursing their wounds, staring off into the distance, like the horizon of the ocean, kind of like unknowing what's going to come next, okay? It's just like, alright, we were here in Totland to do all this, join up with Big Mom, that didn't work out, meet Sanji, that didn't work out, alright, so what's next for us? And Judge just walks out behind them, and the caption is, Judge's sigh, or Judge lets out a sigh. So he just walks out and is just like, ugh. But I still think it follows my theory where in the next one, volume 3, this one was Judge's sigh, next one is going to be Judge's profanity, where he walks out on the deck of the Germa kingdom and he's just like, ugh. Son of a bitch! He just like yells into the ocean like every profanity he knows because his life's work literally got lit up in flames, so that's that. I look forward to seeing the marvelous adventures of what's going to happen with the Germa coming up here, okay? I think we're all curious about where Yonji is going in this story, right? Alright, so we start off the chapter at the Flower Capital, and we're kind of winding down the Fire Festival now. So there's people just drunk in the streets, and they're just like, hey man, you've drank too much. He's like, oh, are you kidding? This is the only the only day of the year I can drink. And so there's a bunch of people actually kind of bad-talking Orochi. They're just like, yeah, this is the only day we can get drunk. This country sucks. Screw you, Orochi. You heard me, you snake son of a gun. Just like, shh, be quiet. There's probably people all over the place listening to us. That's the kind of thing that Orochi would do. He can't touch anybody during the Fire Festival itself, but the day after. You know, he probably is keeping a tally of like, all right, head out there into the Fire Festival, my minions, and I want you to report back to me all the drunken ramblings that you hear. And then the next day, some, you know, Wano officials show up at their front door. You know, that probably is how it goes, right? So we have a guy there. I think he's one of the people that, remember that whole little routine that Frankie had where he was running all over town trying to find the blueprints, and he's just like, oh, I gave the blueprints to the pawn shop. And he goes over to Rick Harrison, and he's just like, sorry, man, I handed them off to somebody, you know, struck me a tough bargain, but I was able to get 500 for him. I was like, ah, damn it. Runs over there. Just like, oh, I gave him to one of the Oirons. I was like, all right. So remember that? I think that's one of the dudes that Frankie went to talk to about the blueprints, and he's like, yeah, it's looking like the Fire Festival is beginning to wind down. It seems like it was a good one. Everybody had fun. They're still completely unaware that Onigashima's hovering pretty much right over their heads at this point. We actually see a float, a giant lantern float of Toki in the background, which is really cool. We previously saw one of Odin, so it's nice that we have one of Toki here. Also kind of curious of what Orochi must think of those things, but once again, every Fire Festival, Orochi's never on the island. Orochi always goes to Onigashima. So I guess the population can get away with that, because I can't imagine that Orochi would allow that, even if, you know, it was the Fire Festival. If he was in the Flower Capital, I can't imagine that he would be okay with them having, like, giant floats to, like, his mortal enemies or whatever. Be like, oh no, that's Odin! He's coming back from the dead and he's giant-sized! Oh wait, it's just a float. Ooh. Burn the float down! Boil it in oil! You know? So they're beginning to light the lanterns, okay? So that was, like, the thing we found out about the Fire Festival. It's like that scene at the end of Tangled. Anybody ever see Tangled? I love Tangled. Okay, so there was the scene where they have the lanterns and they're writing like their wishes on the lanterns and they're setting them off to the sky, you know, and so the sky god can grant their wishes. It'd be funny if they floated all the way up to the moon and then Eneru's up there rocking out in his new crib with the automata and he's got his awesome city, and then all of a sudden a bunch of lanterns just land in front of him and he's just like, what am I supposed to do with these? Like, please allow my family to eat this year. He's like, what am I? I'm not Santa Claus, but then that's where Eneru decides to turn over a new leaf, and he dresses up as Santa Claus, and he descends from the moon like Thor or freaking Zeus, and he lays down divine presence on everybody. Yeah, that's what Eneru's going to do, right? So, you know, a lot of the messages they're writing on the lanterns are very sad, because they're like, please allow my children to eat as well as they did tonight, tomorrow. You know, just allow our family to continue to be healthy. You know, it's very sad because of the situation that exists in Wano with Orochi's rule and everything, okay? But don't worry, I think everything will be better after this, provided the island doesn't land on you and immediately explode. Beyond that, though, I think everything will be okay. So now we cut over to the roof of Onigashima, where, yes, the fight has just stopped, and we don't really see how it stops. You know, Kaido just pulls a barrel of sake out of nowhere. Did he just have that in his back pocket at all times? That's just funny. Because I can't imagine, like Kaido and Luffy are up there brawling, they're firing off Conqueror's Hockey, like giant lightning bolts are shooting through the heavens. The heavens themselves are rankling asunder at their battle, and just like, what is this, like Katakuri's Mariendo, where all of a sudden Kaido just stops and he's like, wait a second, Luffy, we've been fighting up here for like 30 minutes having this epic, there's like hard rock metalcore music in the background. He's like, hold on, let me turn off the music. Okay, I need to get drunk. All right. You know, just like he just summons a minion over with like a giant thing of sake. He's like, all right. And he just starts drinking right there in the middle of the battlefield. Luffy's just like, what are you doing? Why are you drinking? And Kaido is just like, oh, because I'm having fun. You should really take this as a compliment. I only get really sloshed during a fight when I'm having fun. And, you know, you're one of the best fights I've had in a long time, Luffy. And does that imply that when he fought Odin, he was drunk off his ass? Or when he fought Roger, he was also drunk off his ass? Because that seems to imply. It's just like, you know... It's like, you know, oh, you've awakened my true power. I will now fight you 100%. It's like in Bleach when, like, Byakuya uses his, like, oh, I'll use Shukei Hakuteiken, or I'll use Senkei. It's a technique I've only reserved for those that I deem worthy. You know, when it comes to Kaido, it's like, you're a strong opponent, Luffy. I respect you, and I will show my respect by getting completely drunk. That's how I prove to you my respect of you to me. Are you already drunk? Yes, I am! Glug, glug, glug. Okay. So Kaido's up there getting wicked hammered, but, you know, he is in his considerate drunk phase, I guess. He's a nice guy, because he offers Luffy a drink, too. You know, Luffy's yelling at him, like, why are you drinking? And Kaido's like, hey, you know, I'm not hoarding it all for myself. If you want some too, fine. Luffy, you know, he's not really much of a drinker anyway. You know, he's not like Zoro. That's more Zoro's speed. Zoro just shows up out of nowhere and he's just like, I'll take it. And he just walks off. It's just like in the middle of the battle for no reason. Zoro just walks into the frame, grabs the barrel of sake, and then just walks off, and they just don't reference him for the rest of the chapter. But anyway, yeah. So Luffy is just like, this is ridiculous. I'm just gonna charge at you. Kaido is now in his laughing drunk phase. Okay, so he begins like, whoa, 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 this is the greatest. And Luffy runs at him and he's just like, okay, fine. You know, you can get drunk if you want, but you better not blame it on the booze if you lose. You better not say like, oh, I was drunk, that's why I lost. So Luffy just rushes at Kaido to attack him, and Kaido just kind of like, he's swaying a bit. He's just like, oh, good. Oh. You idiot! You act like alcohol makes me weaker or something. And so he picks up his kanabo, Hasaikai. And this is actually a really cool scene, because Luffy's running in acting like he's gonna get a free hit because Kaido is like swaying from side to side, and pretty sure his peripheral vision is gone as well. So Luffy's just charging straight ahead. Kaido, he's in his human form right now. He lifts up Hasaikai, and then in just one scene, he just boom! He just like explodes into his hybrid dragon form and brings down Hasaikai in an attack. Shuran Hake, which is the Drunken Bagua, okay? Which once again, it's the exact same technique as the other one, except he's drunk while he does it. And that might increase his Conqueror's Haki. Who knows, okay? So he slams down the Hasaikai right on Luffy, and this finally does something that I've been waiting for forever, and it actually damages the roof enough so that the ceiling of the festival hall is beginning to cave in. All of those attacks up until now, like when Luffy did his red rock right down on Kaido, all of the attacks of the worst generation, that combo attack that Big Mom and Kaido did together, all of those moves, this is the first move that we actually see causing damage enough to actually create like the ceiling begin to cave in, or the roof to cave in, and then the ceiling of the Golden Kagura Hall to cave in. So everybody's on the bottom and they're just like, ah, crap, you know, the castle's on fire, and there's also like the ceiling's caving in. This is just the worst night, right? And so Luffy got hit head on there. I mean, he took a direct hit from that damn thing. So he's on the ground gripping his forehead, having the worst splitting headache imaginable. And he's like, oh God, that hurts. All right, maybe I'll take some of that booze now. He doesn't say that, but it's just like, all right, maybe actually I will. You know, if anything, I've never been drunk, okay? I don't know what that sensation is like, but I would imagine, if nothing else, it probably dulls pain a bit. Like, does it? I don't know. It seems like Kaido is kind of a jovial individual, and if it does enough to actually, you know, cover up pain and like your exhaustion and stuff like that, maybe Kaido's able to ignore that and move forward, because Kaido is taking damage throughout this battle, and we saw with the flaming clouds beginning to weaken, he is like, his stamina is huge, but it's not infinite, okay? So maybe the booze is doing that, like it's making him forget about his fatigue and able to fight, okay? So maybe it's something like that. So now Kaido transforms into his full dragon form, which is not good, but then he's over there off to the side, and he's like, I'm enjoying this, ha ha ha, except my entire castle is destroyed. What am I gonna do? Look at this place. You know, it sucks. You know, it took like 5 years to build this castle. How long is it gonna take to fix it all? You guys suck, you know? You walk into my home and you just trash it, right? So now Kaido is in his sad drunk phase. Aw. And he's also a dragon, so he's a sad dragon. He's a sad lad. What are you gonna do, right? And so you feel for him. It's just like, yeah, screw you, Luffy. You walked into this man's house and completely destroyed it, okay? Kaido doesn't have insurance. What insurance company is going to accept a giant muffin mountain shaped like a skull where pirates hang out? His premiums would be through the roof. He's got to pay for this out of pocket, okay? So Kaido is really sad right now. And then Luffy is just like, okay, All right, he gets up and he's like, all right, I'll try that again. I just got to keep my guard up this time. So he charges at Kaido. Kaido, in his dragon form, kind of coils up like a snake and then does that Tatsumaki twister thing where he begins to like uncoil and like all of the air blades come out of his body. The same technique he used against Zoro. Dragon demolition twister. And so Luffy gets hit head on by that thing and he gets knocked back even further. And so now Kaido transitions from his sad drunk phase to his crying drunk phase. You might think those are different, but no. The tears that wallow up from Kaido's eyes could now flood an entire, like, river, okay? Like, seriously. So he's just like, why? Get away from me! You suck! I hate you! Why do you keep doing this? I didn't do anything to you! Except I did, but whatever! You know, so he just starts crying and bawling, and it's so funny to see, like, this is the main antagonist, right? Like, up until now, Kaido was just like, you know, I'm Kaido, I'm gonna beat you down. That's not how Kaido talks, but you know what I mean. Like, he was a pretty serious threat. He was like a monster. He was a dragon, okay? He wasn't like, you know, I'm a big, tough, stupid guy like a lot of other, you know, anime villains are, but, you know, he had the size, the intimidating glare, you know, he had it. And now he's just crying. It kind of reminds me of that scene in JoJo in Battle Tendency when AC/DC just begins to bawl out of nowhere and then just stops out of nowhere, you know? Kind of like that scene. It's pretty funny. And Kaido is crying and he's just like, oh, okay, you know what, if you asked for this. So he takes up Hasaikai and now he just uses regular Thunder Bagua. Luffy charges at him. This is actually a really cool scene, okay? So he's about to swing the Hasaikai. Luffy's running square at him. This time, though, Luffy's ready. Kaido swings the Kanabo. Luffy jumps up, lands on the Kanabo, and then proceeds to, boom, kick him right in the chin. So that's the move there, and that's also the move that I like in action movies. Whenever somebody's about to get hit by a car, they just like perfect timing. They like jump and land on the roof of the car or the hood of the car or whatever. That's basically what Luffy just did. He's got expert timing. Don't attempt that in real life though. Anyway, so yeah, Luffy jumps up on the Kanabo, uses it as like a platform, and then springs, and then boom, kicks Kaido right in the chin and knocks him back. Okay, so like Kaido rears back, uses his tail to grab Luffy so he can't run away. And so they then just kind of like bounce back like a bungee cord. And so they both slam into each other's foreheads, but there's so much Conqueror's Haki and armament going off, they don't actually touch. You know, the same thing with like Whitebeard and Roger's blades didn't actually touch during their battle. So it's just like, bam! And then like so much like Haki just fires off from that one point, okay? So, this is the moment where Luffy hit him so hard, he basically started to sober him up, and so Kaido is really pissed now, because if there's one thing Kaido hates, it's a hangover, right? So he's just like, you stupid brat! I was having a big buzz going, and then you ruined it! You ruined everything, Luffy! And then this is his angry drunk phase, where he, you know, launches a Boro Breath right at Luffy while in his hybrid form. I don't know, is that the first time he's used Boro Breath while in his hybrid? I don't know. Even if it isn't, he uses it, okay? So he fires that at Luffy. Luffy manages to dodge it. He gears up his rock, Gumu Gumu no, like, rock gun or rock pistol, red rock. That was what we used last time. But now, he's using the Gatling version of that. Meanwhile, Kaido is using the Gatling version of his Hasaikai, Gundare Meteor Shower, or like the Army of Dragons. And it's a really cool sounding name, and it's a really cool sounding, it's really cool looking double page spread, where Luffy's just using his Red Rock's Gatling version and Hasaikai Gatling version. But at the end of the day, literally all this is Luffy just punching really fast with his fists, and then Kaido is like, ultimate technique! Multiple swings! You know, they're doing it maybe a little bit faster than I am, but like, that's basically what they're doing, and just like, Luffy's like, I have my special technique. I'll punch him a lot, and Kaido's like, I will raise you punching me a lot by me swinging this a lot, you know, and so that's basically what it is, but it's a really cool double page spread there. Okay, and so Luffy gets hit, Kaido gets hit, but both in the face. Kaido gets hit right in the face by Luffy's Red Rock. Luffy gets right in the face by Hasaikai. They both get knocked back. Just a volley of attacks are just slamming into each other. And then, hold on, Luffy, oh, here it is. He gears up with his ultimate technique, utilizing his sandals, which are like indestructible at this point. And he extends his foot back, increases the size, kind of like he's using Giganto's Stamp, you know, the technique he used in Impel Down, except This is obviously hockeyed out the ass at this point. And so, boom, fires it back. He doesn't name the technique, but he hits Kaido right in the freaking stomach with this. So, literally, this is how it's going. They're, like, Luffy's punching him, Kaido's swinging, and it's like his hands are full, so he can't do anything. So Luffy's like, all right, how about a foot then? And he just, like, extends his foot back, and then, boom, kicks Kaido right in the stomach. And Kaido's just like, whoa, okay, I felt that. And so, then we just end the scene right there, because that was just a bloody melee, okay? That was a bloody sake-fueled melee right there, okay? Luffy, I think, has learned an important lesson to not let his opponent get drunk. If that ever happens again in the story, I think Luffy's going to do something about it. Like, if Luffy walks up to Blackbeard and they're about ready to fight, and Blackbeard has his little flask there, and he's just like, Zeah! Alright, I'll fight you, Straw Hat. Just let me get a shot of whiskey first. Luffy's like, oh, hell no! He just, like, breaks the flask. I'm not falling for that one again. Right? So that's funny. Alright, so that just ends the fight right there. I mean, the fight's not over, but in the chapter it is. It just stops right there with just Luffy, you know, jet, rocket, giganto stamp, rock right into Kaido's stomach. And then Kaido's just there like, oh, and then Luffy's just like panting, like covered in blood. And then we cut away to the last scene of the chapter at the Holy Land of Mariejois, okay? We cut over to that. So, alright, just collect yourself for a moment, because whenever we cut to Mariejois, it's a big deal, and we've been doing that quite a lot recently in the last few arcs, okay? So we cut over to Mariejois. The first thing I wanted to look for, because I think this is the first time we're really seeing Mariejois in its full scope since the Reverie, I was looking in the background to see if there was, like, buildings damaged or something from, like, Sabo and Fujitora and Green Bull's fight or anything. I think there might be, I don't know if it's a cloud, but it kind of looks like there's smoke coming off of one of the buildings, but it might just be clouds because they're way high up, maybe. Castle Pangaea itself looks fine. It doesn't look battle damaged. We go to the Room of Authority, where all the Gorosei are gathered. None of the Gorosei look injured in any way, so they didn't fight during their, they didn't fight during the Reverie or anything like that. Although they do mention that the Reverie this year must be, like, cursed. So they're like, oh man, this Reverie sucks. This is like the worst one we've ever had, alright? Nothing went right here, you know? The revolutionaries attacked, Cobra was looking around where he shouldn't be, we ran out of cheese with the appetizers, you know? Like, it was the worst Reverie in recent memory, okay? But the other members of the Gorosei are like, oh, get over it, we don't have time to talk about that right now, we got more pressing issues. Specifically Wano. So, whereas the world government didn't usually focus on Wano, this is the moment where they are, because not only is Kaido and Big Mom fighting there, but also Nico Robin is there. Also, Wano, I imagine, has a lot of resources the world government has always been interested in, plus the whole thing with Joy Boy and Odin. Like, everything kind of comes back to Wano, okay? So they're talking about Wano, and they're like, okay, the battle is going in a way that we don't even know what's going to happen now. You know, I'm imagining the CP0 are, like, relaying this information back to the Gorosei constantly of, like, what's going on in the battle, who's winning, you know, what the numbers are and everything on the Go board. Maybe it was the Gorosei's idea to measure everything on a Go board, who knows. But anyway, they're like, ah, well, surely the Cypher Pull must have captured Nico Robin by now. And it's weird that they would say that, because it's like, yeah, I know we tried to do that before with Cypher Pull 9 and it didn't work out, but this is Cypher Pull 0. They probably definitely have Nico Robin in custody by now, right? But the thing is, they also go on to say that, like, with this battle being as insane as it is, people or, you know, groups could just disappear and no questions would be asked. So they might be referencing Drake there, they might be referencing Kaido's Beast Pirates, Big Mom's crew, like they could just get wiped out and no one would look at the world government as being responsible for that. Like if Drake, a member of SWORD, just died in the middle of Wano, in the middle of Onigashima, they'd be like, oh yeah, he just died, what are you gonna do, right? And I guess that goes for the Cypher Pool too, you know, so the government really has no culpability here to go back to them, you know, because it's like this chaos that's going on in the battle, right? But that's not the interesting part, okay? So now we cut cut over to the outskirts of Wano, the ocean surrounding Wano, where we have all of these government ships basically at the entrance just on standby. And one of the government officials is like in the crow's nest of the ship is like a lookout, and he's seeing like a giant shadow emerging from the fog around Wano. I'm assuming this is, well, hold on a second. I'm assuming this is from behind the ships. Yeah, it's from behind the ships. So like Wano's right in front of them, like the waterfall and everything, and then there they are, and then behind them something is emerging from the fog. And they're like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know! Now, when I originally looked at this, I thought it was the members of the world government on the ships that were relaying this information back to the Gorosei, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It just seems that the Gorosei are having a conversation that's relating to this at the same time. It's kind of like a couple chapters ago when Zoro was doing the whole thing with Enma. At the same time, that was the chapter that Hiyori showed up. It's like a storytelling device Oda utilizes a lot, where it's like these two scenes, they're not directly connected. It's not like the people from Wano on the ships are communicating with the Gorosei, but they're talking about things that are kind of connected. It's sort of like, you know, a theme thing. So they're looking through the fog and they're like, what is it? I don't know. It's just, it's huge, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 legs, no, 5 legs and tusks, and oh dear God, no. And so we see a shadowy image of Zunisha arriving at Wano, and we just see its silhouette emerging from the fog. But wait, it gets cooler. We cut to the Gorosei, and the Gorosei, at the same time Zunisha's showing up at Wano, they're having a conversation. They say, hey, it's impossible. Its power has not awakened for centuries. That devil fruit is a legend even to us. You know, it hasn't awakened in centuries upon centuries. And then another member of the Gorosei, Sanji's uncle, like the youngest looking one with like the blonde hair, he's like, yeah, but why would the government go to such lengths to change the name of this devil fruit so that they hid it from the world and the annals of history? And that's the end of the chapter, okay? Okay, wow. Wow. There's a lot of stuff to unpack here. There's going to be a follow-up to this, obviously, because this is big, all right? There is so many ways you could take this, and Oda is a master of teasing this. And oh, by the way, 2-week break. 2-week break, so we'll see what happens next. But the point is that I want to bring up here, okay. So, the Gorosei are talking about a specific devil fruit. We do not know which one they're talking about, but they said that said devil fruit's name was actually changed by the world government. Not by them, but by the world government of old. So that seems to imply right there, like, the Gorosei do not know everything. And that is something very fascinating, because the way that Sanji's uncle talked about it was like, the world government changed the name of that devil fruit, right? So to hide it from the annals of history. Kind of like he's like making a guess, like he's not 100% sure, which is weird because they're the Gorosei. They should know like everything, except then we found out Im-sama is actually the one in charge of everything, so Im might actually keep the Gorosei in the dark about a lot of things, right? So he's like making a guess that like, oh yeah, the world government or the Gorosei of a previous generation, which by the way, that should also imply that the Gorosei, this set of Gorosei, the 5 of them, are not like immortals or anything like that. Like these are just like a group of Tenryubito that became Gorosei, and then they're eventually going to die, and then a new group of Gorosei will join up. I mean, unless you get like a memory wipe thing involved, which, you know, it's the world government, so who knows. Anyway, that's not the point. I mean, that is the point, because that's also an interesting moment to talk about stuff, but the big thing is there's a devil fruit, okay? Hold on. Ugh. We don't know which one it is. I'm just using the Gamu Gamu no Mi as reference. It might not be the Gamu Gamu no Mi. In fact, it probably isn't, but maybe it is. Who knows? Anyway, all right, so there's this devil fruit that apparently it like is so powerful, or its existence, it like bothers the world government or the Gorosei, so they changed the name of it in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, I guess, so it's not what it really is. Now, they also mentioned this fruit has not awakened for centuries. Now, what does that mean? Because that can imply, okay, the fruit did not awaken as in no one has eaten it in centuries. That's one way you could look at it. Or another way you could look at it is like, okay, somebody, like many people have eaten this fruit since then, but it hasn't awakened, like a devil fruit awakening, you know, like Doflamingo and Katakuri and Law and Kid awakened their fruits, okay? That I think makes more sense, although I will bring up this as a caveat. So, it doesn't matter what the world government calls a devil fruit or what they write down in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. idea, it doesn't matter, because when someone eats a devil fruit, they learn what the real name of the fruit is, okay? When Luffy bit into the Gamu Gamu no Mi, he knows it's called the Gamu Gamu no Mi, okay? And he names all of his techniques Gamu Gamu no for that reason. Even when people do not know what devil fruits are, like when Kinemon ate his devil fruit, the clothing fruit, or when Shinobu ate the mature fruit at Wano and they didn't know what devil fruits were and they thought it was some kind of sorcery or magic, they still kept the naming scheme of like the repeating word, okay? So when you eat the fruit, regardless, it doesn't matter. You could call this like, this fruit is known as the, I don't know, the metal fruit, but then you eat into it, that's not the metal fruit, this is the Gamu Gamu no Mi. You know, like, there you go. That's basically how it works. Like, the fruit, like, tells you, which also lends to my belief that, like, devil fruits have a level of sentience on their own, like, they're aware of their own existence, right? Okay? So that's one angle. So the implication is either somebody has not eaten this fruit in centuries and it's not a big deal, or somebody has eaten the fruit but it's never awakened to the power. That's what they're afraid of this specific fruit not just being eaten but awakened to the true power of it, okay? And so here's the big question that like, what is the devil fruit? What is it? Like, we don't know, but we see Zunisha at the end of the chapter. I'll make a follow-up video to this, but I'll just tell you my very first thought when I saw that, okay? When I saw this implication, like, okay, there's some kind of devil fruit that's really powerful, the government wants to hide, and then Zunisha's showing up. What if Zunisha isn't an elephant? Well, Zunisha is an elephant, but what if Zunisha is maybe an ancient giant, or maybe Joy Boy himself, because Joy Boy was really big, he had the giant hat. What if that is the person that ate, like, the Zozo no Mi and turned into this elephant? Or Zunisha's species was given as, like, the long-legged elephant, like, it has a specific name. Maybe there's a devil fruit variant of that, but the government changed the name or something like that, so it's like you don't actually know what it is. Also, the idea that, like, the whole concept of Zunisha having a country on its back, there's stories of that in myth, where, like, the entire world is, like, supported on a tortoise, and then there's an elephant on top of the tortoise shell, and then the world is on top of the elephant, right? And so there's, like, a reference to that in Zunisha being this giant elephant that's, like, 1,000 years old. So that's the first thing I went to, that, like, Zunisha itself is not really an animal, like just an elephant. It's actually a human or a giant or somebody from the Void Century that consumed a mythical zone that allowed it to turn into Zunisha and awaken the ability even further, and has Zoe on its back for like 1,000 years, but also has to take orders from somebody, so there's that. Because of the order thing that Zunisha has to follow, I saw some theories that it was actually Otama's. It was Otama's Kibi no Mi, and so that is the ability to control other animals and stuff, and so the government changed that name, so it's not the Kibi, it's actually something else. Maybe it's just a broad ability. Well, I guess it isn't, because they tried using that ability against page 1 and it didn't work. So it's not like a broad, like, brainwashing ability where anybody can be affected. It's only animals can be infected and Smile users can be affected, right? Humans cannot. So it's probably not Otama's, because Otama's has been, and also Otama calls it the Kibi no Mi, okay? So she ate it. She knows what the name of that fruit is, okay? You know, unless the government called it something else and she's the one that, no, I don't know. See, that's the thing. I gotta sit down and do like a separate thing about this, but that was my first implication, that like Zunisha itself is not just an elephant, is actually a human, which would also make or a giant, which would also make sense why Zunisha is capable of speech. Now, when it comes to the whole, like, you know, I committed a sin and I must walk for eternity and I can only do things upon others' orders, like, that's another thing that it kind of resembles Otama's ability, but maybe there's a devil fruit like that is similar in power. It might not be a devil fruit we've seen yet. It might not be a devil fruit that we've encountered yet, okay? It might be a devil fruit that, like, the government gave a very simple name to, like, to not make it look appealing, to make it look like, oh, this is just the blue fruit. If you eat it, you can make things blue. So it's not really all that interesting. You should probably not go looking for it, right? And then somebody eats it like, wait, this isn't the blue fruit. This is the reality fruit, allowing me to warp reality. That's obviously not what it is, but it's like the idea what the government was doing, okay? Honestly, the fruit is probably something that connects back to Joy Boy. It's the same reason why they probably want the Gamu Gamu no Mi. It probably connects back to the Void Century. Same reason Eam has that giant straw hat frozen in the castle dungeon, because it connects back to the Void Century. The government wants to try to eliminate every single solitary thing, person, object, devil fruit that connects back to the Void Century in any way. So that's the reason why they changed the name, all right? But we'll go into this further later. That was the chapter. Crazy fight between Luffy and Kaido, and then ending it out with this. I don't even care we have to wait a 2-week break. Well, I kind of do, because that sucks. We just got over a break, now we have another break. But whatever, it's fine. I want to see where this goes. Oda, you got to expand on this next chapter, all right? Wano's really reaching its apex at this point. Don't do this thing where you just cut away for like 10 more chapters and tell us to answer this. It's time to answer some questions here, all right? Well, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. This will be Tekking101 signing out. What if I combine devil fruits and sake?